You send the spreadsheet to your boss, they open it, and all they see is this: a wall of error messages screaming, "I don't know what I'm doing." Here's how to fix every single one of these in under 30 seconds. Let's go. Look, Excel errors make you look careless, but you can fix all of them at the formula level in under 30 seconds. Here are the 5 most common errors and how to fix them. So download the practice file in the description and fix these with me. Let's start with error number 1. All right, so in my Excel worksheet here, you see in column C, I have all these divide by 0 errors, and it's making our dashboard look like a mess. We wouldn't send this out to anybody. However, in column D, you can see I'm returning something that's a little less noisy than that divide by 0 error. So what I'm doing here is I am doing a if error function wrapped around our sales divided by our days to close with a check in quotations for our value if error. And that's what's so great about the if error function is we can put our value in, and if there's an error, we will return a different value based on whatever we put in that value if error syntax. And you can put whatever you want here. I put 0 right here. You can put it in a dash. You can put in an error. That way you know to keep eyes on it if you do return that error. So if I were to put in, like, let's say a 5 here, you see that my formulas automatically update. And if I were to drop this low, great, you see that everything automatically updates. And there you go. That is the power of the if error function. It's best practice to always wrap your formulas with an if error function to avoid any issues with your functions. All right, so up next, we're dealing with the value error in our table right here. And you can see that this is super messy. I have Q1 sales that are pending, waiting. I have other sales from Q2 that are TBD or NA. And then as you can see in our total, we're using the wrong function here to return a value. I have all sorts of different errors spread across my table. Our first solution is we can use the sum if function. So I can go sum if, press tab to lock it in. I'll go ahead and select my range right here, then press comma, and then in quotations, greater than 0, close the quotations. Boom, excellent. So now I have 11,200, which matches that right there. And you can see that I have the sums of all of our values here, and it's not returning any errors. So that's a great power move right there to avoid any issues with the calculation. The second one is I can use a if error function to make sure that we don't return any errors. So what I'll do is equals if error, our value will be A5 plus B5, and then comma. So if you have an if error, we'll say check, close it in quotations and parentheses and press enter. Great, that looks good. We'll drop it low. And you can see I have checks there for all of our numbers, and we can instantly tell where we need to look at for our data. And just to add an extra layer of protection here, if you want to select all of your data and go to conditional formatting, you can go to highlight cell rules equal to, and we'll say check, we'll press OK, and then excellent. Now you can see instantly which cells we need to focus on and correct. Perfect, the value error is solved, and that's error number 2, only 3 more to go, and the next one drives people crazy. Also, real quick, I put together an Excel downloadable cheat sheet that you can download for free, so go ahead and check that out in the pinned comment down below. Our third example is going to be the NA error and using if NA to help correct that. So you see here I have an employee lookup table, I have our IDs to find, and I have an example of using if error the wrong way and using if NA to help return the correct value. So if I open up this right here, press F2, do you notice anything funky with our function? Yeah, so we're missing a U in our VLOOKUP, but you see I'm returning a not found. If I were to look at this at a glance, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't have that ID. However, if I have the same issue with our if NA, I'm still missing that U in the VLOOKUP function, and I'm getting a name error. So I can go put that in, put a U, press enter, and excellent. Everything's fixed. Drop it low just in case, and excellent. That corrected everything here for me. So yeah, I see down below here why if NA is better, and that's because if error hides all errors, and that includes anything with our lookup table. So if we're missing a employee ID that we just do not have, or if that is an error in our lookup formula. So if I go back and correct this and go ahead and drop it low, You see I'm still showing not founds, and that's because these employee IDs are not able to be found anywhere. If you know you're going to be using a lookup function, the if and a is a great option because it will ensure that there's no issues with your lookup value and also with your function as well, and that's pretty powerful. That's error number 3 of 5. We're over halfway done now, and next up we have the sneaky ref error. All right, so our fourth example is going to be that notorious reference error. Here in our table, I have a profit column that looks at our revenue plus or minus our cost in this circumstance. And let's say I go in there and accidentally delete our cost column. You see that everything that was in our profit is now broken. It's showing that reference error because we deleted one of the columns that it was referencing. So alternatively, what we can do is we can use the sum function here, and I can select this as a range and press parentheses, press enter, drop it low. And let's say I do the same thing. I accidentally delete our cost column. Our function still works. And I know you might be saying like, hey, like in this circumstance, you have revenue minus cost, you're looking at the wrong data. You're absolutely correct. This was just for illustrative purposes. If you have a larger data set, this still works. And I think that probably makes a little bit more sense in a wider data set, but I just put this together and I wanted to make a quick example of it. So I suggest using the sum function in these circumstances just to ensure that your formatting always looks pinpoint correct. And that was error number 4 of 5, one more left, and that one is our name error. All right, so the last error that we have is the name error, and that shows up when Excel doesn't recognize something that you typed into a formula. And the 3 main reasons that this might happen is you might misspell the function name, you used a function that doesn't exist in your version of Excel, or you forgot quotes around the text. And the fix is always to double check your spelling, and if you're referencing text, wrap it in quotes. So in our case here, if I were to show these formulas, you can see I double put a M behind our sum function, a double E on average, I spelled VLOOKUP wrong, I did count does instead of count and I misspelled if. So if I go back and look, all of these are going to return that name error. And these are incorrect because they're just not looking up at anything right now. But I just wanted to show the correct way and how to do it. As I mentioned, the second problem might be the function not existing in your Excel version. That's the case specifically for XLOOKUP. Group by is another example that it's not going to be in previous versions of Excel. And the third problem is missing quotes around a text. I've done this so many times, and you just got to get used to putting in, if you're going to manually type something in, put the quotations around it. There it is. That's the name error fixed. So that's all 5 errors handled. Your spreadsheets are now error-free and professional. Look, Excel errors are going to happen, but now you know how to handle them. And that's what separates someone who's just getting started from someone who looks like they actually know what they're doing. So use the if error for calculations, if and a for lookups, and use the sum to prevent those reference errors. Check your spelling for the name error, and you'll never send an error-filled spreadsheet to your boss again. And if you want more Excel tips like this, subscribe. I post new tutorials every week, and if you found this one helpful, check out my video on lookup functions. The link is right there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.